Have you ever woken up and just felt different? Not in a dramatic way, but in small, unsettling ways you can't quite explain. You slept for 8 hours, but you still feel tired. You get cold easily, even when the heat's on. Foods you used to love suddenly feel like they don't sit right. And maybe you've started to wonder, is this just what aging feels like? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. These changes can be frustrating, even scary. But here's the truth no one tells us enough. After 70, your body will change. Not might. Not maybe. It will. But here's the good news. When you understand what's changing and why, you can stop fighting your body and start working with it. In this video, we're going to walk through 5 unavoidable biological changes that every person experiences after 70. These changes aren't meant to scare you. They're here to empower you. Because once you understand what's happening inside your body, you can adjust, prepare, and stay strong, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. Let's begin with the first major shift. It's something almost everyone notices, but very few people fully understand. Have you noticed your sleep isn't what it used to be? Maybe you're falling asleep earlier, waking up at 2 a.m. for no reason, or lying awake long before the sun rises. That's not your imagination. That's not poor sleep hygiene. That's your brain rewriting your sleep architecture. After 70, your sleep doesn't just become lighter, it becomes fragmented. Studies have shown that deep sleep, the kind that helps restore your body and memory, drops by more than 70%. That's huge. Deep sleep is when your immune system recharges. It's when your body repairs tissues, processes memories, and resets. So when that part of your sleep disappears, everything else starts to feel off. You might go to bed at 9, only to wake up at midnight, then again at 3 a.m. Then you're up for good at 5, feeling groggy, unrested, and sometimes even irritated. It's not just frustrating, it wears on you day after day. A woman named Margaret Wilson, 73, from Denver, told me something that might sound a lot like your own story. I go to bed at 9 p.m., she said, but then I'm wide awake around midnight. I'll doze off again, but by 4 a.m., I'm just lying there. My body feels tired, but my brain won't shut off. That experience isn't unusual. In fact, it's almost expected. You see, after 70, your body's production of melatonin, the hormone that signals sleep, drops by about 15% every single year. At the same time, your internal body clock starts shifting. Scientists call it advanced sleep phase syndrome. It just means your body wants to fall asleep and wake up earlier than it used to. So what do most people do? They try to force themselves to stay up late, thinking it'll help them sleep through the night. But that usually backfires. James Carter, a retired teacher, tried that. He thought if he stayed up until 11, he'd sleep solid. Instead, he lay in bed frustrated, watching the clock. Within a few months, he developed full-blown insomnia. And all that stress made his days feel heavier than ever. The solution isn't to force your body into an old routine. It's to respect the new one. If you feel tired at 7 p.m., there's no shame in going to bed. That might be your body's way of telling you it's ready to rest. Fighting that schedule often just leads to stress, not better sleep. Let your natural rhythm lead the way. Another small but powerful change: keep your bedroom cool, ideally between 60 and 67 degrees. After 70, your internal temperature regulation gets weaker, making it harder to cool down at night. A cooler room helps trigger those remaining sleep hormones more effectively. And when you wake up, try this. Within 30 minutes of getting out of bed, expose yourself to bright light. Open the curtains, step outside, or sit near a sunny window. Natural light helps anchor your body's new clock, giving it a more solid rhythm to follow each day. In the evening, the opposite applies. Limit screen time and bright lights after 6 p.m. I know, it's tempting to scroll through your phone or watch TV late into the night, but the light from screens tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, which delays melatonin production even further. Some folks, like Helen Moore, 76, from Ohio, have taken a new approach entirely. She calls it her 2-part sleep. She goes to bed around 8, sleeps until midnight, then gets up for an hour of quiet reading or light stretching. After that, she sleeps again until morning. It might sound strange, but she swears it works. I stopped trying to sleep like I was 40, she told me, and just started listening to my body. And here's the thing, your body's not broken. It's just operating on a different schedule now. Instead of forcing it into a mold that no longer fits, you can choose to adapt. And when you do, you might be surprised at how much more rested and at peace you feel. But sleep isn't the only thing that changes as we age. As your nights shift, so do your days, especially when it comes to how your body handles temperature. One of the most overlooked but dangerous changes that happens after 70 is that your internal thermostat starts to malfunction. You may not even notice it at first. Maybe you feel chilled when others don't. Or you're sweating in mild weather while everyone else seems fine. That's not just sensitivity, it's biology. The tiny area of your brain that regulates temperature, called the hypothalamus, loses about 20% of its function by age 70. That means your body isn't detecting heat or cold as accurately as it used to. Your sweat glands don't respond the way they did before, and your blood vessels can't widen or tighten fast enough to keep your core temperature stable. That's why something as simple as sitting in a garage for a few hours can turn dangerous. That's exactly what happened to Thomas Reynolds, 74, in Seattle. One winter afternoon, he was working in his garage. The thermometer read 45 degrees, but he didn't feel especially cold. By the time his wife found him, he was confused and shivering. His core body temperature had dropped to 94 degrees, hypothermia. He spent 3 days in the hospital recovering. The scariest part? He never even felt cold. That's because after 70, your body doesn't send the same warning signs. You might not feel thirsty, even when you're dehydrated. You might not shiver, even when your core temperature is dropping. That's why awareness is everything. The solution here isn't high-tech. It's simple, practical habits. Keep your home between 68 and 74 degrees all year round. Have thermometers in the rooms you use most. Don't trust your body alone to tell you if it's safe. Dress in layers so you can adjust quickly throughout the day. And most importantly, drink water even when you don't feel thirsty. A glass every hour or so is a good rule of thumb. Hydration helps your body regulate temperature more effectively, even if it doesn't feel like it. Susan Miller, 72, from Phoenix, takes no chances. I used to just go by how I felt, she told me, but now I keep a thermometer in every room. I drink water by the clock. I even keep a sweater in my purse just in case. Her simple routines have helped her avoid the ER more than once. These small changes, adjusting your sleep habits, watching your body temperature, staying hydrated, they might not seem revolutionary. But they are, because they're based on the biology of what your body is doing now, not what it used to do. And when you start honoring those changes instead of ignoring them, you create space for something incredible. Ease, peace, and strength, even in the later years of life. You might be noticing that foods you used to love just don't sit right anymore. A meal that once gave you comfort now leaves you feeling bloated, sluggish, or even uncomfortable for hours. It's frustrating, especially when you haven't changed what you eat, but your body has. One of the most surprising shifts after 70 happens in your digestive system. It doesn't just slow down. It enters what doctors call a permanent low gear. You're not imagining it. After 70, your entire digestive tract, from your mouth to your colon, starts working differently. You see, your esophagus, the tube that carries food from your mouth to your stomach, begins losing coordination. That means swallowing, something that used to be automatic, can feel harder, slower, and occasionally even worrying. Some people say it feels like food gets stuck, even when it doesn't. A man named Richard Bennett, 71, from Boston, shared something that may sound familiar. He told me, "I used to eat anything, anytime. Pizza at midnight, no problem. Now even a small dinner makes me feel like I swallowed a rock. It just sits there." That feeling starts early in the process. After 70, saliva production drops by around 40%. And saliva isn't just moisture, it contains enzymes that help break down your food before it even reaches your stomach. So when saliva decreases, digestion becomes harder right from the first bite. Then we get to the stomach. By 70, your stomach is producing much less acid, about 30% less than it did in your 50s or 60s. You might think that's a good thing if you've struggled with heartburn. But here's the twist. Stomach acid is essential for breaking down proteins, absorbing nutrients like vitamin B12 and iron, and killing harmful bacteria. So when acid goes down, digestion suffers, and that's not all. In your small intestine, the little finger-like projections that absorb nutrients, called villi, start shrinking, up to 25%. Your pancreas slows down too, producing fewer digestive enzymes. All of this makes nutrient absorption harder and bloating more common, even if you're eating the same foods you always have. Then there's the colon, where digestion finishes. Transit time through your system used to be about 30 to 40 hours. But after 70, it can take 80, 90, or even 100 hours. That's where chronic constipation starts to creep in quietly. It affects nearly 60% of people over 70, and it often becomes one of those things no one wants to talk about, but everyone deals with. Now, the important part. What can you do? The good news is you don't need to overhaul your entire diet, but you do need to adapt it. Start by eating smaller meals, about 400 to 500 calories each, every 3 to 4 hours. Your body handles small portions far better than large meals now. It's not about eating less food, it's about spreading it out so your system can manage it more efficiently. And then there's chewing. I know it sounds too simple, but chewing thoroughly is one of the most powerful things you can do. Aim for about 30 chews per bite. It sounds like a lot, but when you chew more, your food is already half digested before it hits your stomach. That takes pressure off the rest of the system. Many people over 70 also benefit from taking broad-spectrum digestive enzyme supplements, especially before bigger meals. Always check with your doctor first, but for some folks, this can make all the difference. And don't forget about fermented foods. Things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi contain probiotics that help your gut microbiome stay healthy. After 70, gut diversity tends to drop, and that affects everything from digestion to immunity to mood. A little bit of fermented food each day goes a long way. Joan Peterson, 73, from Minneapolis, made some small but smart changes. She started eating 5 small meals a day, chewing everything carefully, and added a cup of yogurt to her mornings. It was like night and day, she told me. I don't feel bloated anymore. I have more energy, and I sleep better too. Now, while digestion affects how you feel after meals, there's another change that affects every minute of your day, whether you're eating or not, and that's your balance. Falls are one of the leading causes of hospitalizations in older adults. But here's the surprising part. Falls aren't usually caused by clumsiness. They're caused by silent, gradual breakdowns in 3 systems that control your stability. Your inner ear, the vestibular system, is the first. It contains tiny structures that help your brain understand where your head is in space. But after 70, you lose around 40% of the sensory cells in that system. So, when you turn your head or change position, your brain may not get the right signal, or get it too late. At the same time, the proprioceptors in your muscles and joints, the sensors that tell your brain where your limbs are, start losing sensitivity. This is what makes you misjudge distances, miss a step, or feel unsure on uneven ground. Then there's your vision. Your eyes contribute more to your balance than you may realize. But as you age, contrast sensitivity and depth perception drop. So seeing steps, curbs, or even the edge of a rug becomes harder. Add to that slower brain processing and weaker reflexes, and you've got the perfect storm. The worst part? A fall can erase your independence in seconds. Linda Harris, 72, from Atlanta, had always felt steady. But one morning she stood up to answer the phone, felt lightheaded, took a step, and fell. She broke her hip. She spent 3 months recovering and another 6 in physical therapy. It happened so fast, she said. I never thought it would happen to me. But there's hope. There are ways to train your balance, just like a muscle. And when you do, you regain not just physical stability, but confidence. Try standing on one foot while turning your head slowly side to side, or stand with your eyes closed for 10 seconds. Even these simple movements activate the parts of your brain that manage balance and coordination. One especially powerful method is something called dual task training. It just means doing a balance activity while your brain does something else, like standing on one foot while naming fruits or walking in a straight line while counting backwards. That mirrors real life, where you have to balance while talking, thinking, or multitasking. And there's Tai Chi, an ancient practice that might just be the best exercise for fall prevention. It combines slow, controlled movement with mental focus and gentle weight shifting. Studies show it can reduce fall risk by up to 45%. Nancy Coleman, 74, from Chicago, started doing Tai Chi 3 times a week after a close call with a fall. She also removed the throw rugs from her home, added grab bars in the hallway, and now wears supportive shoes indoors. I haven't fallen once in 2 years, she says. I feel steadier, more in control. My friends joke that I move like a cat. And that's the point. You don't have to accept unsteadiness as your new normal. You can train your body and your brain to adapt, even rebuild pathways you thought were gone. Balance, like digestion, isn't something you can take for granted after 70. But with small, intentional steps, you can protect it, and with it, your freedom. There's one final change we need to talk about, one that affects everything else we've discussed. It's the foundation that supports your ability to stay independent, active, and confident. And the truth is, this change begins quietly, almost invisibly. But if left unaddressed, it can define your next 10 or 20 years in ways you never expected. After age 70, your muscle mass enters what scientists call a catastrophic decline. That may sound dramatic, but it's backed by hard biology. Around your 70th birthday, your body flips a switch. You start losing muscle at a rate of 3 to 5% every single year. By age 75, many people have lost up to 25% of their remaining muscle. But it's not just about strength or looking fit. This is about function, the everyday ability to climb stairs, get out of a chair, or carry groceries. It's the muscle that keeps you balanced, supports your bones, and even affects how well your immune system works. What's truly surprising is that your body can start breaking down muscle even when you're eating enough food. That's because after 70, a condition called anabolic resistance kicks in. Your muscles simply stop responding to protein and exercise the way they used to. You can eat a meal that would have built muscle in your 50s, but now it barely makes a dent unless you're incredibly intentional. William Parker, 71, from San Diego, didn't know about this. Last winter, he got the flu and spent 2 weeks, mostly in bed. When he started feeling better, he couldn't climb the stairs in his house without stopping halfway to rest. I lost more strength in 2 weeks than I had in 5 years, he told me. I didn't think I'd ever get it back. And sadly, he's not alone. Just 10 days of bed rest after age 70 can cause as much muscle loss as 2 years of natural aging. And because your satellite cells, the cells responsible for muscle repair, have declined by 70%, rebuilding that strength becomes far harder than it used to be. But this doesn't mean you're powerless. In fact, this is where the fight really begins. And it's a fight worth showing up for. The first key is protein. You need more of it now than when you were younger, not less. Research shows people over 70 need about 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight just to maintain muscle. That's roughly 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. And here's the trick. You need to spread it out across your day. Too many people eat light during breakfast and lunch, then pack in most of their calories at dinner. That doesn't work anymore. Your body can only use a limited amount of protein at one time. So if you skip protein early in the day, you're missing a chance to fuel your muscles when they need it most. Deborah Collins, 73, from Austin, learned this the hard way. Her doctor told her she was losing muscle even though she ate well. Now, she starts her day with eggs and Greek yogurt, has a protein shake mid-afternoon, and eats chicken or fish with dinner. It's not a diet, she says. It's fuel for staying strong. The second key is leucine, an amino acid found in foods like eggs, dairy, and lean meats. Leucine is the specific trigger that tells your muscles to build. After 70, you need about 3 grams per meal to overcome anabolic resistance. Without it, even high-protein meals can fall short. Then there's vitamin D. About 75% of people over 70 are deficient, and that deficiency directly contributes to muscle weakness and faster muscle loss. If you haven't had your levels checked recently, ask your doctor. A simple supplement, taken consistently, can improve muscle function by as much as 20%. Now let's talk about exercise. Yes, resistance training still works. In fact, it becomes essential. But the way you approach it should shift. Forget heavy weights and grueling gym sessions. Instead, focus on compound movements that work multiple muscle groups at once, things like chair stands, wall push-ups, or step-ups. Form is more important than force. You don't need to lift heavy. You just need to move with intention. Do exercises that mimic real-life actions. Standing up from a chair, reaching overhead, walking upstairs. That's functional strength, and it matters more than anything else. And here's something that might surprise you. When you exercise matters too. After 70, your body is more responsive to physical activity in the morning. That's when cortisol levels are naturally higher, inflammation is lower, and anabolic resistance is weakest. A short morning routine, maybe 20 to 30 minutes, can do wonders for your energy, balance, and mood. But just as important as the work is the recovery. Your muscles take longer to heal now, so instead of training the same muscle groups every 48 hours, wait 72. That extra day helps your body rebuild more effectively and reduces injury risk. One final piece. Don't let more than 4 waking hours pass without some form of protein. It could be a snack, a meal, or even a glass of milk. But regular protein intake throughout the day sends a steady signal to your muscles. Stay strong, stay alive. It's not just about preventing weakness. It's about protecting your freedom, your ability to move, to care for yourself, to enjoy your days. It all rests on muscle. And I want to tell you something important here, from the heart. This isn't your fault. If you've lost strength, if you've slowed down, if the stairs are harder than they used to be, it doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. You're aging, and aging isn't a failure. It's a process. But it's a process you can navigate with knowledge, with grace, and with strength. You've now learned the 5 biological changes that happen to every single person after 70. Your sleep changes. Your body temperature regulation weakens. Your digestion slows down. Your balance becomes more fragile. And your muscle mass declines. These aren't signs of something going wrong. They're signs that your body is adapting to a new phase of life. And once you understand these changes, you stop fighting them. You stop blaming yourself. And you start building a life that works with your body instead of against it. That's the secret. Not pretending you're still 40. Not chasing perfect health. But listening to your body, respecting what it needs now, and giving it every chance to thrive. Because thriving at 70, 75, or 80 isn't about luck. It's about preparation. It's about information. And it's about the courage to adapt when things change. So I want to leave you with this. Aging is inevitable, but suffering through it isn't. You have power. You have choices. And every day is another chance to live with more freedom, more strength, and more peace. If this video helped you understand your body better, I hope you'll share it with someone else who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell us, what change surprised you the most? What are you doing differently now that you know the truth? And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more guidance on how to live well, age wisely, and stay strong at every stage of life. Here's to your strength, your clarity, and your next chapter, lived with joy, resilience, and grace. Because your story isn't over. In fact, It's just getting good.